Today, I just want to talk about the 21 facts about Bitcoin that everyone needs to become familiar with. Um, I have developed a thesis, and this is my instruction that I offered at Utah Valley University as an adjunct instructor. And my thesis is that there's actually 21 different phases or features or facts or states of Bitcoin that is simultaneously occurring, kind of like water. There, you can have water is liquid, gas, plasma, or solid like ice. Bitcoin takes us to a whole new level. So here's my rundown of the 21 facts or the 21 states of Bitcoin. And these are: Bitcoin is art, Bitcoin is key, Bitcoin is life, Bitcoin is time, Bitcoin is work, Bitcoin is asset, Bitcoin is force, like uh, a military type force or a threat of force. Bitcoin is digital, Bitcoin is energy, Bitcoin is private, Bitcoin is fungible, Bitcoin is currency, Bitcoin is trustless, Bitcoin is sovereign, Bitcoin is technology, Bitcoin is transparent, Bitcoin is cryptographic, Bitcoin is infinitely limited, and Bitcoin is intellectual design, and Bitcoin is owned by everyone. So these are the different states that Bitcoin exists as far as my curriculum that I prepared. So we're going to go, this is going to be 21 chapters. And today I'm not necessarily going in order of what I just talked about, but Tokens Magazine 2023 edition covers these 21 states of Bitcoin. And as you can see on my website, tokensmagazine.com, you can actually use my wallets to make donations. To if you like my material, I've got a Bitcoin wallet, I've got a Strike account, I've got my USD account, I've got my Litecoin, my ETH, and of course, you can always Venmo me contributions for all this great content that I'm providing. Content is king, and I am the queen. This is Charlene, the Crypto Queen, Charlene on Green. I've gone by so many different names, but today I want to talk about something that's very important to me and my career in the energy and sector and in the utility sector. If you think about Bitcoin as a way of storing energy. People talk about Bitcoin as a store of value, as a future ability to store the value, and that value is perpetually going to increase over time. So the store of value, you want to convert your cash or your other assets into something that is limited, something that you can produce, something that's digital, something that for the first time you can hold it in your brain. You can basically die with your with your Bitcoin. No one can take it away from you unless you're willing to give up your keys. But Bitcoin is energy. No one's really talking about Bitcoin as energy. There's a lot of focus on Bitcoin, the currency, Bitcoin, the asset. Like I said, Bitcoin, the store of value. But Bitcoin is energy. The foundation of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency is the fact that it takes energy. So all the computers that are running the Bitcoin node or code, or the Bitcoin platform or system or whatever, the technology itself is run on computers using electricity. It uses energy. Without electricity, you will not have this technology operational. And the distributed nature of the network worldwide, wherever there is say a computer running the node, it has to be plugged in, and it consumes energy. So Bitcoin as a source of energy, as a store of energy, uh, we're going to start seeing where corporations, energy utility providers are going to start looking at Bitcoin as a store of energy. We're talking about the ability to store kilowatt hours. So for example, when the electricity that comes into your home, because I used to work at Rocky Mountain Power, and before that, I worked at Southern California Edison as a media representative and as a communications professional. So my job was to describe how people could save and provide options for people to save energy, to conserve energy, different mechanisms or different options that the corporations want to put out, all the customer facing communication regarding energy, clean energy, saving energy. So I'm big on energy from my career. So when I started learning about Bitcoin back in 2012, I was just uh, departed from Southern California Edison, and I was doing a television program and a radio program on sustainability out of the state of Hawaii, beautiful Honolulu, the Big Island, Kanai, Kauai, sorry, Lanai, and Maui. I traveled beautiful places, and the big focus was all about saving energy. And the challenge is always that you cannot store energy. But what if Bitcoin comes along, as I was talking about in the year 2012, as a store of energy? Because this is when people started mining Bitcoin. Everybody, all the underground people were setting up a little server in their bedroom and mining Bitcoins. And this is when Bitcoin was, I think 2012, Bitcoin was like probably under $100. I don't remember the figure, but I started talking about the ability, after reading the white paper of the Bitcoin white paper put out by none other than Satoshi Nakamoto, and looking at it from the energy perspective. I didn't necessarily personally get involved as owning any Bitcoin, but as a journalist and as a communications professional, this was my thesis and has grown over the years until I developed this curriculum for Utah Valley University, where I was teaching blockchain and Bitcoin as an adjunct instructor. So my thinking about Bitcoin is grounded in its proof of work, in its energy, and its ability to store energy. Because this is when electric vehicles started popping up. We got the movie Who Killed the Electric Car and the resurgence of the electric car, and Tesla was just coming out. There was I have a friend in LA that has one of the first 100 Tesla Roadsters. So, and I was one of the first journalists to write about the Tesla. And so the whole challenge was storing energy, that you can go a long distance and have that energy, the battery capacity. So we know about battery, that you can store energy in like a lead acid battery, like a car battery. And then we have lithium ion batteries, the batteries that run your cell phone, and the same kind of batteries that are in electric cars. So we're used to that kind of that methodology of storing of energy, that kinetic energy that you can use to operate and run a vehicle or start your car, or that kind of function of electricity. Now, the electricity that comes into your home, you're not, that energy cannot be stored. We don't install backup battery systems in our home. Like some people who want to go off grid, they have their whole system or their RV or their recreational vehicles using some kind of a stored energy, like a diesel generator, and they charge their batteries and they can use it at night, or they have solar panels that collect electricity, converts it to alternative current, and stores it in a battery system that they can use 24/7 or while they're driving their RV down the road. So we're used to that. That is already established way of storing energy. But there has not been a digital way. There had not been an electronic way. There had not been basically a system, a technology that actually stores the energy as the technology. The technology itself is energy. So to create a Bitcoin, how does a Bitcoin start? How do you mine Bitcoins? So a bunch of computers on the network, they're trying to solve an equation or a problem, a computer problem, a computer equation that is put out by the Bitcoin code. And all the computers on the network, they're competing to see which computer or who will solve this problem first. It's the hashing and the time it takes between each uh, equation to solve, and all the computers around the world are racing to see who is going to be the first one to solve this code. Now, that takes a lot of electricity. All the computers everywhere in the world combined, using all of that electricity, and putting that into creating a block of Bitcoin that can be released, whether it's 12 minutes or 10 minutes or 11 minutes, whatever the hash rate is between each equation, and how many blocks are going to be awarded per day or per equation that's resolved or hashed out. It's called hashing. Like all the computers are hashing it out, like you and me hashing something out, and we come to a resolution at the end. That's a block. So that's how a new Bitcoin is created. What I'm talking about is all the electricity that goes into each of these computers and these servers and these miners that are running the Bitcoin code. Uh, Millions of kilowatt hours are being stored in Bitcoin. Now, it's funny because a lot of people listen to Warren Buffett, one of the richest man on the planet, and Warren Buffett, he owns a lot of energy company, a lot of utility companies. He's not just, buy stocks and get rich. He actually owns things that generate value, like electricity company, gas companies. He owns Pacificorp or Rocky Mountain Power out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and Wyoming and Idaho. This is the company I was working for most recently as in their field office in southern Utah. And so my job was to communicate safety, make sure that everybody was safe, supporting the directors, and just making sure the communication to the field workers was on point, making sure they had everything they need, communicating with them. So I understand the energy. And so people say, Warren Buffett, the point I'm making is Warren Buffett's out there saying he doesn't like crypto. He's not into crypto. But guess what, folks? The electricity companies, the energy providers, they're the first one to collect on crypto, because every cryptography code, every crypto coin, all the Bitcoin network is run on electricity. So when these miners pay their electric bills or use the electricity being supplied by their utility provider, the utility provider is actually benefiting from Bitcoin. They are the main driver of the Bitcoin network. They are the provider of the lifeblood of the whole Bitcoin network is the electricity. It's the energy that creates this proof of work. So you cannot separate Bitcoin from energy and electricity. And that's the angle that yours truly, Charlene, talks about. Nobody else is talking about the energy and the impact energy has on Bitcoin. Without energy, there would be no Bitcoin. It would just be a white paper that you can read. But to run the code, you need electricity. To support the network, you need electricity. The amount of kilowatt hours, the amount of electricity going into that, storing that electricity is the new way. And energy provider. So Warren Buffett says he's not into Bitcoin, but guess what? He's the first one that gets paid when every block is generated. So anywhere in the United States that you're running a Bitcoin node or running the Bitcoin code or supporting the network, whether you're just supporting the network to verify transactions, or you're actually earning blocks and earning Bitcoins yourself, you are using electricity. And the person who is providing electricity, the electric provider, is the first one at the door to make money off of Bitcoin. So when electric providers like Warren Buffett or Pacificorp say they're not into Bitcoin, they are the first ones into Bitcoin. Nobody gets paid out of Bitcoin besides the electric company. Anybody else down the line, all the systems operators, all the supporting network, all run on electricity. So the biggest beneficiary of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin, is electric providers. So if you want to know what should you go into, you should go into electricity, owning electricity, providing electricity, supporting electricity. A lot of people are now finding ways, like El Salvador, to attract Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin companies to set up their operation in El Salvador, because they have clean geothermal energy. They are running, you can run your Bitcoin miner right there at the foot of a volcano using geothermal energy. You're using hydroelectric energy. Is big in El Salvador. It's big in South America. Geothermal energy is big in places like Greenland, Iceland, Norway, places where it's cold and they can pull that energy, that steam energy out of the earth to make electricity to run their turbines. So there's a lot of places that are actually cashing in. There's some people who are also even taking the flare gas, when natural gas power stations flare off the excess energy that they're not supplying, they're not delivering to customers. They got to flare it off. If there's no off takers, is that these companies, they produce so much electricity. They talk about an energy crisis. There is absolutely no energy crisis in the United States. Energy is in such excess supply. For example, every power plant is producing about 100 times of the amount of energy that it's actually delivering. There's line loss. There's the distance of supplying and delivering that energy. When it gets to your house from the power plant, it's already lost 80% of the energy that left the power plant. For it to get to your house, it's only going to have, by the time it gets there, it's going to only be less than 20% of the amount of electricity that started on those power lines. Because as the electricity moves along the power line, it actually consumes itself. It's like you're it's like working out. You need to rehydrate. If you're working out all the time, you got to take a swig of your water bottle. So electricity moving on power lines actually consumes energy, and it loses energy the farther distance it has to go. So if a power company knows that it's going to supply a neighborhood of 100 homes, and those 100 homes are going to take 2 kilowatt hours a day, so that's 100 times two. They need 2,000 kilowatt hours a day. They've got to produce 100 times that. You understand? To be able to deliver 2 kilowatts to every house, you got to provide 100 times that, because along the line, the power line, to get it to its destination, where you can flip the switch, where you can plug your phone in, where you can plug your refrigerator, turn on your air condition, you need to produce 100 times of that energy, because by the time it gets to you, there's only 20% left, 20% remaining from where you started. So we're losing all this energy. What I'm saying is that if there's a way that we can store this energy that's generated, and if there's nobody using that energy at the end of the power line, if there's nobody at home flipping the switch on, if there's nobody plugging in an air conditioner, plugging in a refrigerator, plugging in a phone, a computer, whatever consumption devices you're using at home, if you're not doing that, that electric provider has to ground that energy. So they send 100% out. 20% gets to your home. Nobody's at home using anything. That energy goes into the ground. It doesn't store. You can't store it. And they have to keep supplying it every millisecond, constant supply of that energy. So there's a lot of energy going into. Now, if you have a computer at home and you leave that computer on running, and that computer is running Bitcoin, now that's a way of storing energy. So think about I made a presentation to some cities, and one of the points is like, cities have workers, and every desk has a computer. And in the evening, when 5 o'clock comes, everyone shuts down their computer and they go home. What if those computers in the evening, when workers are not in the office using the electricity, using light, running the computers? I mean, there's still a little bit of energy being used, because in the computer, you turn off the computer, it still takes a little bit of energy to keep the computer ready to be switched back on. So it's still using some energy. It's called phantom energy. The energy, like we call it phantom energy in the energy industry, because you're still using electricity even when you turn something off. The only way to not use electricity at all is to unplug everything. So as long as the computer is plugged in the off position, what you could do is flip those computers on, and at night, since the power company still has to supply that energy, whether or not someone's in the office, whether or not someone's at home using electricity, they got a constant supply. You don't want to flip the switch and nothing happens. So in order to be able to provide that reliability, that's what we talk about in energy sector, is the reliability of having energy 24/7. You've got to constantly pump out kilowatts after kilowatts of energy, whether somebody is using it or not. Like I said, if the energy is not being used, it's grounded, so that way every power switch has grounding. The where the power comes into your house at the connection site before it goes into your junction box, there's grounding wire going down from your junction box down to the ground. So all the energy that's coming straight at you 24/7 that you're not using, all that energy is being grounded. What I'm suggesting is something that utility companies already do. It's called demand response. So today, what electric companies offer customers is like, if you're in a production type industry where you can switch your machines or your manufacturing processes to the off peak. Off peak means, so everybody wakes up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. and they get a shower, they turn on the light, they shave, men, they shave, women, they put on their makeup, they blow dry their hair, so they're using a lot of electricity between, say, 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Everybody's doing the same thing. They're getting ready for work. They're making coffee. All the coffee machines are pumping. All the teapots are sizzling. All the kettles are sizzling. A lot of energy. Everybody's making scrambled eggs, packing lunch for the kids, making lunch for... basically, the peak hours are in the daytime when everybody is doing the same thing at the same time. And then you have some lull time, and then they go to the office and everybody turns on the computer at 8 o'clock or 5 minutes to 8. Every computer comes on, all the lights in the office come on, the air conditioning systems come on, or the heater or whatever it is, all those systems come on. So say, for example, between 7 a.m. and at 10 a.m., everything's jumping, pumping, and it goes on in lunchtime. And then it's slowly, people start leaving the office maybe at 4 p.m. And then they get in their car. And so between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., you might have a low peak. But it's a very short window, like 2 hours. But then everybody turns off the computer at 5 o'clock, and all the business offices are now closed. All the lights are shut down. The air conditioning systems are on just barely operating. So all this energy that was happening between 7 and 4, or between 7 and 5 p.m., all of a sudden everything stopped. Everything comes to grinding out. Everyone's now polluting the highways, driving down and trying to get home. And remember, when they left home, all of their systems, all the coffee makers, everything was turned off. All the lights are off. The only thing that's humming is probably the refrigerator. They probably don't even turn on the AC while they're away. Then they get home. Everybody gets home at 6 o'clock or 6:30. And boom, all the homes, they jump into action, start using energy again. All that energy that being used at the office, it didn't automatically go to supplying the homes. It's still going to supply the office. But even though everyone went home and they turned off everything, that energy is being grounded. Okay, so the key thing to remember here is that when the systems are off, whether at work or off at home, all that energy still keeps coming on the power lines, and it's being grounded. It's being sent into the ground. That's what grounding means, because there's nothing to take the energy. You can't store that energy, and you can't stop it. You cannot switch off the power plant because you switched off the office computers and everybody went home. And you can't switch off the power plants because everyone left home and went to work. No, all that energy still has to keep coming. So here's what energy providers are going to realize, and are starting to realize: during those off-peak hours and off-peak times, you can use that energy now to mine Bitcoin, to support the Bitcoin network. Isn't that revolutionary? Isn't that key? Isn't that critical? So all this energy, mind you, all the energy they're grounding, you're paying for it. Don't even think for a second that that energy is going into the ground and you're not getting charged. There's a minimum base charge that they charge you for your electric bill. Like, you have to use... Even you ever hear people, they go on vacation and they come back and they get a bill. Like, why did I get a bill? Nobody's been home for a month, 2 months. We've been gone for the whole summer, and we're getting electric bill. Well, all the energy that they still supply to your house even though you're not there to use it and it's being grounded, maybe it's not as much as you were using had you been home. There's like a base level of supply that they have to keep constant because you got things plugged in. You probably left your refrigerator plugged in, right? Nobody unplugs their refrigerator because they're going on vacation. They just leave it plugged in. When they come back, they throw out the rotten, pizza or whatever. But the point is, you still have things plugged in. When you come home, you expect to turn the light, flip the light switch, and light's supposed to be there. You expect to run home, plug your phone in, and it starts charging. So all that base level energy, you're still paying for it, whether they're grounding it or you're using it. So the fact is, the power company is not going to be what do you call it, blackout of getting paid for this energy that they're supplying. As a matter of fact, you're not just paying for the 20% that's actually being delivered to your house. And I'm being very conservative saying 20%. Most of the times it's less than that because this energy is coming from very far. Sometimes it's coming from a whole nother states, hundreds and maybe 1,000 miles away, maybe 2,000 miles away, wherever the energy plants and energy supply is being generated until it's delivered to your apartment, your home, wherever. Here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. If you don't take nothing from all the things that I'm talking about, here's what you get to take away. If you have, when you're not at home, when you're not using energy to flip the lights on and cook and make your coffee or whatever, you're blow drying your hair, what if your computer was running the Bitcoin node in these off peak season, your own off peak season? What if you could be using that electricity to generate support the network and also store the energy? Remember, I said all that energy is being grounded. Now, if you're using it to support the Bitcoin network, that is being vested. It's like depositing the energy into the Bitcoin network, depositing that energy into running, and you might even earn a block of Bitcoin. Who knows? Anybody, the computers, I guess if you have the ASIC, computer chips or whatever chips are faster to try to generate more activity to solve the Bitcoin code and earn a block, you could. But the point is, every computer, like all the office computers, once everybody leaves the office at 5 o'clock, what if at 5:05 those computers kick in and start generating and start supporting the Bitcoin network? That's why Bitcoin is energy. The energy that you would have wasted grounding that energy that's being supplied to the offices and all the commercial activity that shuts down at 5 o'clock, going now into Bitcoin network supporting. So all these little people with their mining, everybody's going to start mining Bitcoin. And this is where Bitcoin is going to have, so, Bitcoin now is here. The network is going to blow up when energy providers realize that they can even offer discounted energy, because they already do this. If you have a business that you can run in the off-peak hours, most energy company offers an incentive. Almost they give you electricity free because they would be grounding that energy anyways. So if you can off-take any energy that would otherwise be grounded, they actually give you an incentive. They will pay you extra. Instead of paying a bill, you might be getting a kickback, cash back on your bill, a credit on your bill for running your operation in the off-peak hours. So they don't have to ground all this energy. They're always looking for ways that they don't have to ground it, because grounding costs a lot of money. And they're not making as much money when they ground it. Now, if you're using it to mine Bitcoin and other crypto coins, I know some people, they don't mind Bitcoin. They might mine Ethereum. They might be supporting all the other top, 1,000 Bitcoin networks or crypto coin networks that are out there. There's so many. There's all kinds of cities now coming out with their own coin. PayPal just launched its own PayPal crypto coin. They need to mine that. They need to support that network. And if they support it just within their own facilities, that's not really a stable network. You need to be distributed, like random people all over the planet running your node, running that network. So this is one of the other things. Be careful when you get into coins, like how many computers around the world are running that coin. This is information that's provided on the blockchain. So point is, Bitcoin is energy. The 21 states of Bitcoin: life, key, asset, store of value. This is the big one, guys. Nobody's talking about it except Charlene on Green. So tune in next time to Tokens Magazine with Charlene on Green. Bitcoin is energy. Thank you.